Hello there and welcome to my tutorial. In today's tutorial I'm going to show you how to make this. These are often called chain quilt blocks because you can make various different quilts because we have this like line going here. You can make so many different variations of quilt just from this one block. At the end of this tutorial I'm going to provide a free quilt pattern so you can go ahead and make something from this quilt block. So I recommend that you join my Facebook group. I have lots of free patterns on that Facebook group, and this is what you're going to be provided. And I'll show you at the end what the quilt block looks like. So as I said, this is often referred to as a chain quilt block, and it can be put together in various different ways. And one way is what I'm going to show you at the end of this tutorial. So let's see how to make this particular quilt block. I found this to be a really fun quilt block to do. So it only requires 2 of these sections, which are 4.5 by 4.5. And then you're going to have 4 of each of these. So you're going to have 4 of the 2.5 by 2.5, and then 4 of the 2.5 by 2.5 pieces. So basically we're going to do our smaller squares first. So if we look at our first quilt block here, the one that we've already stitched, these are the 2.5 by 2.5 here. So this here will be your first block, and then this will be your mini second block. So let's concentrate on one thing at a time. First things first, we're going to stitch these 2 sections together. So you're going to grab these and you're going to put them right sides together. So they will be sitting one on top of the other, right sides together, pretty sides together. So you've got the printed side of the fabric matching. And we may as well do them all at the same time. So we're going to do this one, and then bring your others over. And then we are going to stitch them 1/4 inch down. I use a Babylock Altair. It's an absolutely wonderful machine. It's a sewing and embroidery machine. I always leave my embroidery carriage on. There's no point in taking it off. In the top of my thread here, I have a regular Gutermann white thread. And then in my needle, I always have a 9014 Microtex needle, and I have the bobbin that is also the Gutermann thread. I like to just take my stitch length down a little bit, so it's a 2.0. And I also love using my 1/4 inch foot width guide whenever I'm doing quilt blocks. The first thing I like to do is always clip these thread tails away. So I'll do that on every single one. I also like to check that my cutting wasn't off. You shouldn't see any overhanging pieces of fabric. So just want to make sure that, like here, how it's got a little bit of overhanging fabric there, I need to just cut that away because I want to make sure that everything is the same size. And there's a little bit here as well. I'm just going to tidy that up. The reason why I'm telling you to tidy them up is because if you're off just slightly over time, it's going to be like a whole 1/4 inch or maybe even 1/2 inch, depending on how much that fabric is overhanging. So it's best to tidy it up now, and then everything's going to be okay when you come to quilting because your pieces are going to be off. As you can see here, I am opening up these seams and I'm pressing them open. You can press it to the side if you want, but when it comes to nesting these two together, I find it's just easier if you press with your seams open. I've missed a bit of thread here. Now we have these two quilt blocks, and what you're going to do is you're going to make sure they look like this. So you've got two opposing sides, and you're going to put them right sides together, pretty sides of the fabric together, and then you're going to sew 1/4 inch up here. If you want to pin. What we want to do ideally, well, more important, is to make sure that these seams here are nesting. So both the centers are meeting. Once again, sew right sides together. Once again, you're going to come along and you're going to cut away these threads. Then you're going to open them both up. And once again, you're going to press again. Do you know, this quilt block is such a great quilt block for beginners. It's getting you started off with piecing your quilts, but there's nothing super challenging about it. Now we have our two little mini quilt blocks. We're going to bring in our bigger blocks now. And we just need to reference again that quilt block. And this is what, actually it's that way. And then that way. And then that way. So once again, we are going to flip this right sides together. Flip this one right sides together. And once again, we're going to sew 1/4 inch down. Once again, you are going to cut away these threads. We're going to open the block up. I'm going to open them seams. I'm going to press them down. And then we're going to sew the final part of this quilt block up. We have a seam here. So we want to make sure when we put it right sides together that this seam matches. If you need to use a pin, put a pin in. Open your quilt block up, and again we are going to press the seam. Before you sew all of these together, make sure they are the same size. I like to match my seams up here, and then I will cut the excess around the other block. My finished block sizes end up being 8 1/4. So on my Facebook group in the files, there will be a file called Kisses and Hugs Crib Quilt, and this is what it's going to look like because it's kisses and hugs. In this pack is also fabric yardage that you'll need for this crib quilt if you're going ahead and doing that. I also added sashing and borders, so there's 2 borders here, and also there's these little squares in the centers here. I hope you've enjoyed watching this quilt block tutorial, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you. Bye-bye.